I'm Muriel, CEO, mum, and educator. I used to work really hard and sacrificed important things to me until I lost my motivation. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, and I found a way to reach great results while working less. Today, I'm obsessed with helping other leaders build meaningful lives. So each week, I'll be sharing inspiration to change your life and organization. This is Rebel Leader with a Heart. Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, how are you, Muriel?
Great. Welcome in Rebel Leader with a Heart.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, you're calling from London across the channel.
Yeah. I'm just outside London, and it's a chilly day today at the moment. Well, we get a lot of chilly days over here, as I'm sure you do in Brussels. But yeah, we're hoping for some more summery weather coming fairly soon.
Yeah, nice. So I've read a little bit about your bio, and I immediately wanted to dive into the subject because I'm curious to know, how did you transform from being a shy kid with high functioning autism to becoming a master in communication?
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's a long journey that I've been on here, and I certainly wouldn't call myself a master of communication necessarily, but it's kind of you to say that. But I've been working on it all the way through my life, really for the last 40 years. So I'm 44 at the moment. And back when I was 4 years old is when I started to sense that maybe I needed to work on communication, which is perhaps an early age to do this. But when I was 4 years old, I was at a school where I had friends, and I was quite confident and quite happy, where I'd been, from infant school. And then I moved to a new area. My parents moved house, and I went to this new school and suddenly really struggled to connect with people, to communicate, to build friendships. And I really wasn't sure why that was, but the way that I envisaged it or felt about it at the time was, it was like being in a glass bubble and not being able to connect with or communicate properly with the people around me. And I could see other people getting on and playing and having banter and building friendships, and I just didn't understand how to do that. And so that perspective really stayed with me throughout school. And it got to the point where when I was 16 years old, somebody bought me a book on body language and for my birthday. And she said, "You really need to learn this. This is going to be important for you." And so I read it, and I was amazed by what I learned in there. And I suddenly thought, well, hang on a second. Is this the stuff that everybody else already knows about? Is it just me that doesn't know this? But I thought, I've got to get better in this area. And through, various events that were happening, I decided I'm going to study communication. I think this is important for me. It's important for my life. And so I began studying. I began sort of researching different books on the topic. And then around the age of 18, I got this incredible opportunity to go and live in India, in the foothills of the Himalayas, up near Darjeeling, where the Darjeeling tea comes from, where I was living in this little Tibetan monastery in a place called Kalimpong, where I was teaching English to the Tibetan monks. And the reason this involved things like sort of body language, communication skills, is that when I got there, I found out that the monks didn't speak any English. So they spoke Nepali and a bit of Hindi and some Tibetan, but they didn't understand English. And so we had to connect with each other through body language, through tone of voice, just to be able to understand each other, to even understand when I was going to have a lesson with them to teach them English. And so I lived with them for 6 months. And over the course of that time, I gained a real understanding of how much you can connect with people non-verbally. And by the end of that time, they learned how to have a good conversation with me in English. I learned how to speak some Nepali back to them, which was the main language of the area, and came back to the UK just fascinated by communication, then studied acting for 3 years in London, really learning about the non-verbal side of things and storytelling, stage presence, all of those pieces that are so important to creating a character and telling a story. And then as I kept on studying this, I read over 200 books on communication. and began then to build up my company and start to coach other people in this area. And I've been doing it ever since. And so now we're at the stage of, I've been running the company for more than 2 decades, and there's more than 100,000 people who've gone through our training programs. We've even published our own research on communication. So it's been a lifelong quest, a lifelong passion that I love sharing with people so that they can really share their voice most effectively and fulfill their potential in their working lives and also in their personal lives.
Yeah, nice. Wow, impressive. And it all started with you struggling with communicating. And when you talk now that you felt like you were in this bubble and you could see the people out there, but you couldn't really connect to them, I have the feeling now that for many people going back to the office or coming out of this pandemic, a lot of people feel like that. They are in this bubble that kept them safe, but also lonely. And now they're re-entering the world, and a lot of them have lost their way and how to communicate. So what would you say to those people or to the leaders of those people to help them again connect and better communicate with the outside world and the people around them?
Yeah, it's a great question, a great observation as well, because I see that so much with our clients, where if we go back to sort of 2019, people were spending so much time with each other that it felt natural. It just felt like something they did without really having to think about it that much. And we would still be working with people on, presentations or public speaking, things they did less often. Then when we went into the virtual working world, we then spent 2 years training people how to speak to a camera, how to use a microphone, how to deal with lighting, how to deal with the fact that people are not in the room with you, and how do you engage people virtually. But you're right to say that now we're starting to see people going back into the office more and feeling slightly stilted in their communication. And part of that is thinking, like, do I shake your hand? Do I give you a hug? Do you want me to stay on the other side of the room? What are you comfortable with in the interaction? And the other part of it is thinking, I haven't done this for a couple of years. So the way that I liken this to is the first 3 months of the pandemic in lockdown, I didn't drive my car. So we got food delivered to us, and we didn't need to go anywhere because we were working from home. And then I got back into the car after 3 months, and I'd forgotten how to drive. Like, initially, I was quite worried about going out onto the street and going onto a motorway and pulling into the lane. It just wasn't something that I felt natural with until after I'd done a few hours of driving. I started to get those skills back up. And so we are starting to work with clients at the moment to give them their confidence back. And what we always say to people, what we've always said in our training, is to practice those skills you haven't been working on for a long time in low stakes environments. So what you don't want to do is to say, okay, I've been working from home for a couple of years, and now I'm going to go into this really important sales pitch or this really important negotiation or speak at a big conference where we're getting everyone together, and you haven't done it for a couple of years is a huge mistake. So instead, you've got to start to practice those skills, low stakes, where you could practice, maybe you get together with a couple of your peers, spend time with them, and really consciously think about, I'm going to be building rapport. I'm going to spend more time engaging with them on a human to human level, having more of those conversations that we've lost over the last couple of years. Depending on who you speak to, people would, previous to the pandemic, they'd have banter, they'd have chat. How was your weekend? What did you do on your holiday? Just more conversation, and gradually ease themselves into the meeting, where we've seen a lot of people when they were doing virtual meetings thinking, okay, my meeting starts at midday. So we turn the camera on at midday and we start talking about work, and then we switch the camera off at 12:30 because that's the end of the meeting. So you've got to practice getting back into that social interaction of those relationships so that you can then gradually ease yourself into bigger and more important meetings.
Yeah, but I also feel like a lot of people during the pandemic, and now, unfortunately, we're entering a new challenging phase. And both those phases are accompanied by a lot of anxiety and fears.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people don't feel that safe. And I feel that people disconnected, not only from other people, but sometimes even from themselves. And going back to the office and trying to connect with others when you're not totally connected with yourself might also be part of the issue in communication. Because I believe if you want really to have an impact and to communicate, you have to be really connected with yourself first.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So let's talk about this from two perspectives then. There's the important part of connecting with intrinsic validation, getting strong with who you are. There's been a huge rise in mental health concerns and appointments that people are looking for in my country. I know that's certainly happening internationally, with people feeling unsettled by what's happening. So what do you do then if you're going to go back into important meetings and feel confident, feel centered within yourself? One of the core things that you can do is to get super clear on your core values. Now, what does that mean? If you think about the principles that you live your life by, if you were to describe the core values or principles that are meaningful to you, that have helped you make the key decisions in your life when a big moment comes up for you, what do you rely on? What do you come back to? And sometimes people say, well, I come back to wanting to look after my family, or being an honest person, or it could be anything else. Get really clear on what those are. And this is something where I encourage people to write down a page of notes about it, where you look to find 3 core values where you think, that's me, that describes the kind of person I always want to be. Give yourself a paragraph about each one of those, about why it's so important. How is it relevant to you? What moments in your life does that connect to? And there's some great results seen through something called the Trier-Social Stress Test, where when they found that when people do this, it increases their levels of confidence and reduces the level of stress hormone in their body before they go into and during an important event. So you can think about getting linked into those key principles for you. And before you go to an important meeting, focus on what those 3 elements are. Then when you go into the meeting itself, you don't want to be focused internally. You've got to then focus on the other person. So you can look at this a couple of ways. Firstly, when you're going to that meeting, look, you're going to need to say some information. You're going to need to talk about data or numbers or updates. You might have some slides and spreadsheets to show. That's great. That's all factual stuff. But if you want to think about this from a human level, it's important to think, how do I want this other person to feel by the end of this meeting? Do I want them to feel reassured? Do I want them to feel a level of certainty? Do I want them to feel excited? Perhaps, what is the feeling that needs to happen in order for this to be a successful interaction? And when you do that, it takes you away from self-consciousness towards the sense of complete engagement with the other person, and giving you a purpose for everything that you do with facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. You know that that's your target. And so once you give that to yourself as a target, it starts to allow everything else to align really congruently with that in the message. And to take that one stage further, what we talk about with clients a lot at the moment is the key concept of lift. Lift. What does lift mean? It means that whenever you interact with someone, it's great if you can aim towards the idea that by the end of that interaction, they feel a sense of lift, which means that before the interaction, they may be in a negative or a neutral state, maybe a positive state, and you aim to get them to a more positive or a more useful state by the end of the interaction. If you do that, they will have loved spending time with you. They'll look forward to meeting with you again. They're more likely to do whatever task you've asked them to do because they feel lifted by their interaction. And so when you keep those pieces in mind, you're grounded in yourself and you're focused fully on the connection with the other person. You're much more likely to have a positive interaction.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I like it. And I like, of course, the words and the rational, but to embody this is a whole other matter, of course. That's why I was triggered by the name of your company, Body Talk, and you talk a lot about body language. Well, I believe the biggest transformation we can get is through our own bodies. And I'm not talking about how you position your body so that the other person gets a message, but just how you are in your body. If your body is aligned with your thoughts and with your emotions. And often the lack of confidence or the doubts we might have or the fears, they're all in our body. And often to transform that, it's often easier. The key to transform it is often easier through the body than through the mental mind or rational mind. So how do you work with the body also? And what kind of work do you do then?
Yes, sure. So we talk about this in terms of helping people raise the bar. So the bar, I mean by BAR, beliefs create your actions, actions create your results, and whatever results you get, they then create your beliefs. So it goes around in this loop. And I found out a long time ago I could short circuit that system of beliefs, actions, results by going directly into the actions, directly into the physical. So if you change what somebody is doing physically in how they hold themselves, in their personal posture, in getting just grounded into a sense of coming back to how the body is designed to work, how you're born to breathe, how you're born to move, how you're born to stand, how you're born to sit. These were the sorts of things that surprisingly I was coached on when I went to acting school. Now, when I went to acting school in London, I thought I'd be taught how to act. And very early on, they said, we're not going to teach you how to act. You know how to act. We're going to get you to a place where you have this blank canvas that you can use to become anything. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we've got to get rid of some of your habits. And so we're going to teach you how to sit, and we're going to teach you how to stand and how to walk. And I thought, I can do those things. I need you to teach me how to act. But by doing that, they just got rid of lots of habits that were holding us back, bringing us back to a way that the body is designed to stand or to sit or to move or to breathe. And once you do that, you then feel free to be able to express yourself, to tell a story, to engage in emotion that is very useful as an actor, but it's also very useful in day-to-day life. And so we work on this with clients when we do, say, a couple of days workshop, taking them through, okay, how are they holding themselves right now? And how might that make them feel? And how does it make other people feel? And then getting them back and rooted and grounded into their personal space. So one of the very, very simple things that we get people to do is we say, okay, everybody stand up for a moment. And we then get them just to settle. And we say, okay, just pause and notice how you're standing. Are you leaning slightly to your left, slightly to the right, slightly forwards, or slightly backwards? Where is your weight settled at the moment? And, where are your feet? Are they close together? Are they apart? Are they crossed over? What have you done in those few seconds since you stood up? And you tend to get most people sort of saying, okay, yeah, I'm either on one hip or on the other hip. I feel like I'm leaning back in some way. We say, okay, well, you're not grounded. Therefore, you're not centered. If I came up to give you a little push, gave you a nudge, you'd fall over. So you're physically a pushover. And emotionally, you could be in a state of not feeling strong in yourself as well. You're a pushover. And so we then get them to realign themselves in their posture with a couple of simple exercises. One of them that's so simple to do is we get them just simply to do a strong jump up in the air and then land. That's it. Which sounds nice and simple. We ask them to protect their knees and joints if they've got any issues with their back, but just simply to jump and allow themselves to do a proper strong jump in the air and land. And then we say, okay, notice where you've landed. And what they find is that they've landed with their feet spread probably about shoulder width apart, and their weight is evenly placed between left foot, right foot, toes, and heels. And the reason the body does that is to protect yourself from injury through your bones and your joints and your muscles. Your body wants to land centered. So your body doesn't land on one side, on one hip, because then you get a fracture if you did it enough times. So you land grounded. And so by regrounding yourself, you then start to feel regrounded emotionally. And if I gave someone a nudge in that position, they are physically stronger. They have grounded themselves with gravity. So they have more of a sense of gravitas. So they're more likely to speak in a way that has greater authority. There's many other things that you can do, which are hard to describe on a podcast. But when I'm physically with a person, when you realign yourself physically, you're much more free then to gesture and express yourself and to feel connected with yourself, and therefore connected when you communicate.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And but what I noticed is that sometimes these exercises, they're great and and we do them as well. But sometimes it's still not enough. Just for instance, I used to be a CEO of a large organization, and I was always very action-oriented, always in control of things, wanting to control everything. And so my whole body was always prepared for action. So with tense shoulders, slightly forward. And I remember trying to do exercises where people would tell me, but relax your shoulders. And I couldn't. I couldn't relax my shoulders anymore. And so I had to learn to do that again. And I did Feldenkrais. I don't know if you know that. It's very slow, present movements where you slowly regain access to all your neural connections so that you can, again, feel some muscles and relax them, because sometimes we cannot feel them. And it's only when I manage to relax my body again that I manage also to relax my mind and being able to let go again. So, So I love it that you work with the body, but for me, it's really a strong key to our presence and our freedom of acting like we want to act instead of react with the habits we have.
Yeah, and there's something important in there to what you said too, that if anybody listening is spending, all day, every day in a certain sense of focus or a certain sense of action, and then they spend they do a 5-minute exercise to relax their muscles. Well, spending 99% of the time tensing them and 5% of the time relaxing them, it's not going to level out, or 1% of the time relaxing them. And so instead, it's important, first of all, to find that relaxed position, a simple exercise that also people can do. If you're finding tension in certain parts of your body, I found this out because I had a bad back for a long time, and I went to see an osteopath, and she said the key to loosening the muscles is to increase the tension first. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, so you increase tension in a certain part of the body, then you know where the tension is. And so you can consciously relax it, because you often don't know that there is tension. I'm sure some people would have heard about the boiling the frog experiment, which I don't encourage anyone to do. But there's if you put a frog into boiling water, it will feel that it's boiling and immediately jump out. But if you put them into cold water and gradually increase the temperature, they don't realize that the water is starting to boil. And so the same goes with us day after day. With tension coming into our bodies, we don't go from sort of completely relaxed to totally tense. It gradually increases to the point where you don't even realize that you're doing it. And someone says, hey, just come and relax your shoulders. And you think, I am relaxed. And then you say, relax shoulders, relax, relax, relax. But it doesn't happen. So we've got to make sure that we're mindful of that. But also, to your point of being in action mode, sometimes we need to think, okay, a different part of me, a different version of me needs to show up right now. Because if I show up every day as the warrior or as the commander, then I'm going to physically represent that in my body. And that's what people are going to see, and that's going to get a certain reaction. So sometimes we need to think, no, my intention today is the facilitator of change, or I need to show up today as the sage, the person who gives support to others to go and do the action. And when you do that, your intention changes, your physicality changes, and the muscle tension that you may have been feeling starts to shift and change as you become a different part of yourself. And it's not about sort of acting or being something that you're not. It's tapping into a different part of your potential that then allows a different physicality to show up.
Yeah. No, that's completely true. And what I see now, because of course my audience, there are a lot of leaders there. And what is happening now is that the disposition of the leader is changing. So in the past, you needed to be powerful and strong and action-oriented. No, it's not that anymore. That's not a good leader anymore. A good leader now is humble, is open, listens, is mentoring, facilitating things, and still a visionary, of course. And that's a whole new body posture also than the previous one. So I
think we've gone from a place where, a few years back, that people would have their corporate armor on, where they might have like a 3-piece suit and this big fancy steel and glass building with their office on the top floor to try and be imposing with the biggest boardroom table you've ever seen. And I think something that's really nice in a way that's come out of the pandemic is that we have seen those leaders on Zoom calls in their living room with their cat wearing a t-shirt. And to go from that back to where we were would just not make any sense. And so I think we're seeing a lot of people relax that and starting to think, do I need a jacket? Should I wear a shirt? Maybe I will. But we're looking for people who are being much more authentically human. And to come back to your first question, one of the first questions, we're really starving for true human connection. Mm-hmm. And so if you have someone who walks into a room and really connects with you on that human to human level, then you think that's the kind of person I want to be led by. That's the kind of person that I can believe in, who seems to have a sense of purpose or a sense of connection with something that really matters. And so, yeah, that's certainly where we're looking for people to be.
Yeah. And I also like the idea of increasing the tension. And I believe that is currently happening worldwide. We are currently increasing the tension. Mental health has never been this bad. People have never felt this bad all across the world. And it's not getting better now with the news we hear. But out of this tension and suffering, we now really feel the need to release and to become this new version of ourselves.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for change that I think has been there over the last couple of years. I've seen more than at any point in my lifetime. Certainly, I've seen people where they're changing their relationships, moving where they live, changing where they work. There's been that sense of, as the tension builds up on people, they think, okay, I can't take this anymore. So this piece that has been stressing my life for too long, that needs to go. And I need to find a different way to approach it so that I'm not feeling this anymore. And so, yeah, that tension really can give us a great opportunity for change. I've heard people talk about this as, the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, where you need to go into a sense of mush to begin with that feels maybe painful and strange and totally transformative to come out on the other side. And so, yeah, I've certainly seen that with clients that we deal with worldwide, where there is a strange tension and a state of transformation. But if you embrace it and use it as an opportunity to see new ways of doing things, I think that can be a great thing.
Yeah, and there I wanted to bounce back because I also read that you helped a business rise back from the ashes during the pandemic, where it has to close down. And then you help them rise again and become stronger. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Because that's a great illustration of that high tension that transformed into a butterfly.
Yeah, so I believe the story you're mentioning there is related to our business, where before the pandemic, we did everything face to face. And we've been doing this for nearly 2 decades. We had 1,000 bookings per year for our team to go around the world and work with different clients. And occasionally people had said, hey, could you do this online? Could you do it virtually? And we'd say, look, no, it's communication skills. It has to be done face to face. There's no way. And then we got to February of 2020 and a few clients started to say, we might need to postpone our bookings based on the news that's happening around this COVID thing. And then by March of 2020, everything had been cancelled, everything. And so we're looking at this bleak state of our booking calendar, realizing we had no income coming in at any point. And we had a big, expensive London office, a team on the payroll, and people looking to me saying, okay, just let us know, when are we all going to lose our jobs? When are we going to go bankrupt? And there was the people in the team, a couple of people saying to me, look, we need to refuse to pay our taxes. We need to make people redundant. We need to take out big government loans. Otherwise, we're never going to survive. And I thought, well, like I've been running this company a couple of decades. Getting into debt right now, it doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So we need to figure out, how do we very quickly transform who we are, what we do, how we exist, and become something for our clients right now that's going to be of service to them, because we've supported them for so many years. They've been there with us. We need to do something for them. And so within the space of a couple of weeks, we transformed everything we do from in-person to virtual. We recorded over 100 online training videos for our clients, created online workbooks and quizzes and a whole system that people can go through, and figured out how to do everything we do on Zoom and Teams and WebEx and every other platform, whether it was live or pre-recorded, and started to work with our clients in that way and retrain our team to do things in a way we hadn't done before. And we then got to the point of now we've done more than 3,000 bookings that have happened virtual for our team rather than in person in the space of that sort of year and 3 quarters since that change turning point happened. And to a place where initially we were in panic stations. Now we're actually in a place where we've enjoyed a greater work-life balance where for me, if I was doing a 1-hour coaching session or 1-hour conference speech, I might need to fly to Las Vegas. I'd have like 3 days out. I'd come back severely jet lagged and then try and sort of spend some time with my kids before I repack my suitcase to go off to South Korea to go and do the next job. Whereas these days I can switch on a webcam 10 minutes before, do the hour, switch the webcam off and go and have lunch with my children. And it's been a transformation that I feel so delighted by and so humbled by, that we've been able to do this and to come out on the other side where our team feels more united, more connected than ever before, more positive about what we're doing and the work-life balance, where early days, and I saw a couple of companies in similar industry who they weren't sure that they could do it, and they had maybe other challenges they were dealing with, and a lot of companies have disappeared during this time, whereas we decided right from the beginning, we are going to make this work. We created a story and a mindset around it that was enabling us to transform.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But what I wonder now is, how did you deal with the period before deciding to use that as an opportunity? Because of course, it's not like it happens. You have zero revenues while you have all these costs, and you immediately think, okay, no problem. This is what we're going to do. So I'm curious to know how you felt in that moment, and how you found the energy to bounce back.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So for me, I approached this because there was a high level of stress and a high level of uncertainty, people very anxious at that time and looking to me. So firstly, on wanting to make decisions, I came back to, well, what are my core values? What do I really stand for as a human being?
But how are you feeling first?
Oh, how was I feeling? I think initially a state of sort of surprise and wonder about, okay, what is happening? I think I've always been an optimist. So I thought, I know I will get through this. I'm just not sure what that means right now. So I think probably my initial thought was, I need to let the team know that this will be okay, that I don't have the answers right now, but that I will have the answers. I need to also let them know that, because we have always looked after ourselves, made good financial decisions, that we've got a good buffer of money that will look after everybody in the time being, and that the company will continue. So that was my first approach was, I need to make sure they know I'm working on it. I don't have it now, but everything will be okay. And then I spent some time every morning. I was doing 90 minutes of meditation, where I would aim to get myself to a state of getting rid of any of the stress of the situation, really focusing on my core values, and then seeing the future. And I've done this for many years in different ways, but I was working on it much more so at the beginning of the pandemic there, which was, I know that if I can see the future, see it the way I want it to become, I have a much better chance of actually creating it that way. And so I go into really deep meditation on writing the future story of where the business would be and how we would get there and why it was important that I did this. And so I would then come out of that and plan my day. I also wasn't used to the fact of looking at my diary and having nothing in the diary for the next couple of weeks. And so I'd plan out the day of, this is my core purpose, this is where we're going to get to, and this is why it's important. mapping that out and taking it one step at a time, and then dealing with other challenges that came up where, we had a big legal battle that came up that we'd never had to deal with before, with people allegedly aiming to steal our clients through criminal activity. And so we had to deal with that piece too, and make sure that that the company was okay, that clients were being looked after. And it was always for me coming back to a state where I needed at the beginning of the day to lift myself so I could then lift my family's state of mind, lift my company's state of mind, and lift the client's state of mind. So it had to start from me and then go out to the leadership team and the core team and everybody else.
Yeah, great, nice. And when you say you had to lift yourself, what were the moments that needed to be lifted, or the thoughts that weren't serving you at that moment, that you knew this isn't serving me, that these emotions, these thoughts? Were there moments like that, or that you thought, I want to give up, or it's not going to work?
Yeah, I think the hardest moments were when we realized that there was an organization actively working to take clients away from us. That was a moment of thinking, we've never had that before, and now we're in a pandemic where it's harder to get work than ever. So having to deal with that situation and all of the difficult situations that come around legal decisions being dealt with there. And I thought, I want to come out of this on the other side where I've protected my team, I've taken care of my clients, I've been a good role model for my children as well. And so it was very much outward focused of what is it I need to be for other people at this moment, and how will I be proud of myself in this moment? Because it's very easy to get stressed and take that stress out on other people and become something you're not under pressure. Mm-hmm. And I kept on coming back to, and I wasn't perfect about it during the process, not at all. But whenever I was having a tough day, I thought, come back to that sense of, right, lift yourself, get ready to be the better version of yourself right now, and then approach this situation. And so, I look back and there's certain things that, I would have changed early on, where I could feel the stress coming into conversations, where I wish I'd lifted myself more before them. But that was a great learning point. I feel pleased that we're almost on the other side of it. But, it's true to say, and it's said a lot, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? I think there's a huge amount of lessons that people have learned if they've been able to go through the stress, through the tension, or through moments that are coming up for people now. If you stay with it, if you stay in the pain, sometimes these challenges come to us to help us grow, to help us become more of what we can be. And if you lean into that and learn from it each day, then actually it can help you for many years to come.
Yeah, no, true. And I think the problem is that too many people out there, they don't allow themselves to feel the pain, to feel the stress. They just put a lid on it and try to continue functioning. And that's when you lose presence. That's when you lose connection with yourself and connections with others, and lose impact also.
Yes,
I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that was really interesting, and you seem to know a lot about improving communication and impact. So where can people find you?
Oh, well, if people want to find us, then if they go to ukbodytalk.com, that's where we've got most of our information. There's resources on there. There's lots of videos on there. And we have lots of articles if people want to learn more, so lots of free resources. They can also find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Richard Newman from Body Talk on LinkedIn. And if anyone's on Instagram, they can find me there under Richard Newman Speaks.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It was really interesting.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, you finished another episode of Rebel Leader with a Heart. If you want more, go to rebelleaderwithaheart.com for show notes and past episodes. If you love the show, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. The more, the merrier. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great week, you Rebel Leader with a Heart.